Hello everyone. I'd like to start by thanking Noble for hosting this conference and for all of you for your interest in Cocrystal Pharma. These are our forward-looking statements. I encourage you to read them along with our SEC filings. So about Cocrystal, we're an antiviral company. We advance high-value antiviral therapeutic drugs. This differentiates us from a vaccine company in that we do not create vaccines. Vaccines are more preventative. We create therapeutics to treat the disease once you have it. This is all driven by our drug discovery platform that was derived from our founders, one of them being a Nobel laureate who took his Nobel experience and put it into a platform to discover drugs. The investment highlights here at Cocrystal are that we target large global markets for the treatment of both acute and pandemic viral diseases. Again, we do have a very strong drug discovery platform that we've developed from our founders and has been used by Merck to develop compounds. We have a number of programs. I think the most exciting ones that we're highlighting today are going to be the COVID-19 programs and our influenza programs. Our influenza programs includes a program that's a collaboration with Merck that began in 2019 and can bring up to $156 million in milestones. We have a seasoned leadership team, and we've had a very cost-efficient operations and enough cash to get us through 2023. This slide here shows all of our programs. As you can see, we have 3 programs in COVID-19. 2 of them are protease inhibitors, which both have leads already chosen on those, and then we also have an earlier stage replication inhibitor. We have 2 influenza programs. One of them's Influenza A. Phase 1 trial is currently underway in Australia. The other influenza program is an AB program, which is in a collaboration with Merck. In addition to that, we have a program in hepatitis C, which has already completed a phase 2, and we're looking to partner that to go into a phase 3. And we also have early stage programs in Noro. Now a little bit about our platform. Traditionally, to discover drugs and compounds, there's a long process. It's not very efficient. It takes time and it's not very effective. Our proprietary discovery platform has been developed to find direct acting antivirals. We've brought down the number of steps. We've made it much more efficient. We've brought down the costs. And that's one of the ways we're able to keep our costs in check at Cocrystals. This slide here shows what we specialize in. We target conserved areas of the virus, in this case, right there. And what we do is we block that area to stop it from functioning. And the area that we target in all of our compounds is the replication area. We find novel binding pockets that are the same in all of the families of the virus. And then we bind right there so that when you have mutations of the virus, it's not able to mutate around this conserved area. And if you can't replicate, the virus will die. And that's the whole basis for the way we attack these viruses. So I'll talk a little bit about our COVID-19 programs. This slide shows you how bad the problem is, but I think we all know this is a highly mutated virus, worldwide problem. There's been a number of vaccines out there that are pretty good, not too many therapeutics. Only ones that are out there that I know of are emergency authorized, and they're really not the best. So we work in therapeutics, so this is the area we're targeting. So we have a number of preclinical leads in this area. 2 of them are already lead compounds, and where we essentially attack is at the protease, the 3CL protease, which is to stop the replication of this virus. This is an area that's getting a lot of attention in both large and small pharma and with the government as the area that looks like the best suited to be able to stop this virus. We've already shown that our compounds show antiviral activity against the variants that are out there, including Delta and the Omicron. This is just a slide to show you how we, again, attack the area of replication on these viruses. Right there, you'll notice the 3CL protease inhibitor. Right there this is the whole process of replication. We're hitting here, and we also have an early stage program here for the idea of a 1-2 punch. So the status of these programs is that we've already selected leads in the protease inhibitor. This is an oral protease inhibitor, which is very important. The oral program is very sought after. Just this morning, we released a press release that we're working with the NIH to go ahead and continue to evaluate these compounds. This is basically the arm of the government to evaluate infectious diseases through the NIH. It's a very exciting program. We also have replication inhibitors that are being developed, and we have a lead intranasal program. So in summary, we have 2 orals programs. So we have an intranasal, and we have another oral program for replication. The ones getting the most attention that we're going to be going into clinical trials this year are both the oral and the intranasals. And the one that we're working with the government on that we announced today is going to be with the oral protease inhibitors. We've already been working with the government, the FDA, to map out the trials for these. We already designed a phase 1 and a phase 2 trials for these COVID-19 protease inhibitors. So a little bit about our influenza programs. Influenza hasn't been getting a lot of attention lately, obviously with COVID, but it continues to be a large health concern. The way influenza is reported is vastly different from the way COVID-19 is reported. If you have influenza, but if you pass away because of something else, a complication, it's not reported as influenza. You don't need to report anyone over 18. Most states don't report influenza, so and this is all from the CDC website. They announce it themselves. So there's a huge difference in the way influenza is reported, and it continues to be a problem. Everyone knows about the vaccines every year that are given. A lot of them are very ineffective, and you really need a good therapeutic. Again, we attack the replication area, again, using a PB2 inhibitor on this influenza. And this is our Influenza A program. We also have our Influenza AB with Merck. The Influenza A program that we're working on, many of you, I don't know if you know, but this is the one that, Influenza A is usually the one that can go pandemic. And so we have this Influenza A program that will treat both the pandemic and seasonal flus. And we have our lead is already in clinical trials in Australia. We've already began dosing, and initial results are going to be coming out soon, but they're looking good so far. A little bit about our program with Merck, which is our other influenza program. It's the Influenza AB. This one began in January 2019. First 2 years, we worked with them to do what we do best, which is develop compounds off of our drug discovery platform. That's again, it's really our backbone of the company to discover these drugs. Merck also realized that. They have their own drug discovery program, but they came to us basically saying we do it better. And that's what we did. For 2 years we developed, and they paid for everything for us to do that. We developed a number of compounds, turned it over to them at the beginning of last year, and now they're taking all the compounds we gave them, deciding which ones they're going to choose as the lead to continue on to what they do best, is use all that money they have to do clinical trials. As that moves forward, we get milestones and royalties. As I mentioned, we have an early norovirus program. This is for South Florida people. You're very familiar with it. A lot of people aren't. But what's neat about this is that, it's not, I shouldn't say neat, but it's really bad, is there is no vaccine or therapeutic for norovirus. Nothing. Zero. Nothing out there. It's wide open. Now, this isn't the biggest problem in the world, but it is a big problem, especially with cruise ships, the military, anywhere where you have a lot of people in a small area. Old age homes, So this is a problem where they can, you have these terrible, nausea, vomiting, stomach pain, diarrhea. There's nothing, as I said, there's nothing out there to treat it, but you can't treat just the symptoms, try and give them things for their pain and the nausea. So we developed, using our drug discovery platform, a number of protease and replication inhibitors. But again, this is very early stage, so I won't spend too much on this. But this is really a neat program that we have that is shows we have a good bench. So once we move on to our COVID and our influenza programs and our Hep C, we still have plenty of other good programs going on that are coming up the line. Now, one of our programs that we've developed is a Hep C program. There is cures out there for Hep C that are pretty good, beginning with a 12-week therapy that came out, and then an 8-week therapy came out, a little bit shorter, and grabbed half the market share of that, and this is a multi-billion-dollar market share. So what this program does is we have a NNI, non-nucleoside inhibitor. We believe can get this therapeutic down to 4 to 6 weeks. And the reason these are so important to get the treatments down is, and the reason why they grab so much market share is because, like with all viruses, if you don't complete the treatment, they can replicate so quickly that they'll just rebound right back. So if you wait 12 weeks and some people miss a day, or it can bounce right back. So the idea of a shorter treatment brings up that compliance, brings up the effective treatment, and also, more important, it brings down the costs. You don't have to use 12 weeks of therapy. If you can bring 4 to 6 weeks of therapy, it brings down the cost. So again, we have a compound lead 31244. That's the best-in-class non-nucleoside inhibitor, an NNI. I believe we've proven this. We've already taken it through phase 2A with favorable results. This program here, we're looking to just partner to carry on to the expensive phase 3 programs. As I mentioned, we have a seasoned leadership team, which includes, at the top there, you'll see Dr. Sam Lee, who's co-CEO along with myself, and Dr. Roger Kornberg, who's not only chairman of our board, but he's also chairman of our scientific advisory board. Sam Lee and Roger Kornberg both founded the company along with the late Dr. Wilcox, who just passed away last year. Myself and Sam are co-CEOs. He's also, in short, he's the president, but he runs all of the scientific operations. Anything to do with science, development, clinical operations, it's all being run out in Bothell, Washington. He oversees it. Him and I are very close. I'm here in Miami. I have the financial team out here. I take care of financial, legal. I raise the money, work with the board. I do everything that he doesn't have to do to keep his mind focused on the science. We're a very science-oriented company. As you can see, I'm just like the only guy that's not a scientist. On our scientific advisory board, we actually have 2 Nobel laureates on there, and some really great names. In our board itself, we have Dr. Philip Frost, who you know from probably down here in Miami. He has a museum and everything. So we do have a very strong scientific leadership team. Whoops. Sorry about that. So along with that strong team, there's a lot of experience, and what they've experienced is once you have a hit, in the case here, a lot of the leadership team had some really big compounds come through, including Cialis, and at the time, once they had that compound hit the market, immediately they were challenged on everything from stopping them from selling to trying to find workarounds, anything they could do to stop this great compound. We think we have some great compounds. So this slide is just about letting everyone know that we strongly protect all of the work we do. Once we have our hit, we're not going to be able to have it taken away or have a stop because it's something that wasn't done that we didn't protect. So we're very aware and very strong on protecting our portfolio of work. Financial snapshot, we have around 50 million market cap. We have a very healthy volume in our stock, very liquid. We had over 58 million in the bank. I think that should be sufficient to take us not only through this year, but through next year comfortably with all the programs I just went over. We have 97 million shares outstanding, 97 million fully diluted, so we don't have a lot of, we don't have any real warrants out there. All those warrants came from pre-public, and they're out of the money. They're nothing, and we don't have any preferred shares outstanding, only common shares. And of that money, we have zero debt on our books, no debt. So it's just common shares outstanding, a very clean balance sheet, and we run a very cash-sufficient operations, a very lean and mean company. So in summary, again, we target large global markets for not only acute but pandemic viral diseases. We have a strong proprietary drug discovery platform, which I will say is the backbone of the company. We have a number of programs I went over with you, but again, highlighting our COVID-19 programs, which are, I'll use the word, very hot right now in the market, but not only because they're very effective, but also because they're oral, which is very important. We also have lead molecules in influenza. One's in a clinical trial currently in Australia in a phase 1. We'll be giving out results here soon, preliminary data. And again, we have that collaboration with Merck where we develop compounds for the influenza program. We have a very seasoned leadership team, senior scientists, and again, 2 Nobel laureates. The one thing I keep saying about this company, I always tell, I've been with a number of companies in biotech over my almost 30 years, and this is probably the most scientifically driven company by far I've ever been with. It's just, they're very strong on science. And the reason I mention that, one of the things I like to mention is that this company does a lot of testing before they go into clinical trials, which I appreciate because they're not trying to rush into clinical trials to get any stock bumps. What they're doing is they go into clinical trials with the best chance of success, which proves itself so far. So it's a very strong scientific company. They don't care about anything but science. I mentioned the Merck collaboration, up to 156 million milestones and royalties. They're going to choose a lead molecule on that here shortly. Again, I mentioned the management team. Last thing, again, if you follow our financials and see how we spend money, we're very cost efficient compared to most companies. And we have a very clean capital structure with no preferred, no debt. And we have cash sufficient to fund our operations for next through 2023. So I did that rather quickly, so I'm done. If there's any questions. Yes?
I'm very intrigued. Your COVID program, most antivirals are either injections or intranasal in cases of flu. How do you get around the problem with oral and reaching the stomach and efficacy? How does that work?
It's a good question. So the question is, because I have to repeat it so the camera can pick it up because they don't catch it. The question is that many of the therapeutics out there for influenza and this for COVID are either intranasal or injections. And what you're wondering is how can we do an oral program and how do we get around that? Again, I won't get too deep into the science. The wrong guy showed up here. But I will tell you that the oral has been tested, and it is, we just announced this morning, we're working with the National Institute of Allergies and Infectious Diseases, which they're evaluating our program and running tests, both in vivo, ex vivo testing. It's effective, and it's showing itself effective against the strains, the different variants that are coming out. How does it, exactly work? I'm sure that's somewhat confidential, but also I won't get too deep into that. But you're always welcome. I can put you, if you're a scientist and would like to get a little deeper into it, I can certainly set that up for them to get exactly how it's working. Any other questions? I know it's early. Well, I'll say The Hep C program, I want to just give you an overall management. The Hep C program, which we went into for a few years and got through a phase 2A, it gets very expensive going into a phase 3. And we were looking at going into a phase 3. However, with COVID-19 hitting, us being a company founded on antivirals, one of the things that it's almost like a call to action. We had to jump right in and see what we could do using our platform. And that's what we did. And we really came out with some exciting programs. And we took those and we said, look, you know, the reality of life is you're not given unlimited funds. And what are we going to spend our money on? What's going to make the most? What's going to help the most? And so we took our COVID programs, which again, we were even surprised ourselves a little bit by how effective the compounds we had coming out. So we shift into that with these protease inhibitors, with these orals. We have an intranasal also, and started moving those along. In addition, we had an influenza program before COVID-19 even started. We had already been working with Merck. So we finished off that, and our influenza program, we put that right into clinical trials because influenza, as I said, some of you may have missed it, but influenza still is a big problem. It's not reported the same as COVID-19. The numbers, if you report the two the same, you're going to see influenza is underreported. It's not even close. And you can get all this off the CDC website. I'll give you the links. They'll say it themselves. States aren't even required to report influenza deaths. So influenza continues to be a big problem. So we took COVID-19 and influenza, and we're going to put all our resources into that primarily, and we're looking to partner the hepatitis C. For any of you that know our history and know how we kind of shifted a bit there, and that's the reason why. And we have interest in all of them.
Has it been subsidized at all with COVID and everything with the government, or is the CDC, is everything on your own back?
That's a good question. So yes, we just announced this morning a collaboration with the NIAID, the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. That's an arm of the government for infectious diseases, directed by Mr. Fauci himself, and they're going to be doing they're evaluating and doing a bunch of work for us. So in a way, they can either pay us and we can do it, or they're going to do it for us. So they're subsidizing us by doing the work. And they're going to, hopefully this is going to continue on through as this progresses, is what we're looking at.
So going into phase 3, are you looking for more institutional investors, or are you looking for a little bit more traction with retail investors?
So we like to stay open. We're more institutional. The question is, are we looking for more retail or institution? It would be more institution, and it'd also be large pharma to go on and partner with, and the government. We're open to all of those. Obviously, we don't have anything against retail, but it's just that when you start getting to those later trials, you got to get a little bit more money and a little bit more centralized. So, but I'll tell you, there's a lot of, and not just us, but if you have a oral program in COVID-19 that looks effective, Big Pharma is very interested in that, very interested. I'm sorry, you had a question?
Generally speaking, do you get a compound fast track? You approach the FDA, or what's the process?
You approach the FDA. Part of that is just getting them involved, like we did announce today, by the NIH arm getting involved, which works. Once the FDA sees that, they're able to fast track. It's also based on the need. There really isn't any good therapeutics. I don't think there's any approved therapeutics. There's this emergency authorized use therapeutics out there right now, and even those need to be boosted to work. So there's a very good chance we could see that. Of course, we can't say yet whether that's going to happen. But if your question is, are we interested, and do we go try to? Yes, definitely. And we do work close with the government.
Right, so basically, if you pick up the phone call.
No. Well, yes. Yes and no. You pick up the phone a lot. I got 1 minute. You pick up the phone a lot. A lot of paperwork to fill out, a lot of meetings. A lot of it is building relationships with the government. A lot of it's building relationships with the government, which we've been doing and we've done, and it's shown by our collaboration we announced this morning. So it's not as simple as a phone call. You can do that with maybe certain institutional investors where you get the top guy, but with the government, it's more bureaucratic. So it's a lot of phone calls, a lot of paperwork, a lot of meetings. And it's all driven by the scientists with the government.
Do you think the underreporting influenza might be a reason for not having a premium evaluation?
I think overall, yeah, no one thinks about influenza right now, but it's not going away. There's a lot of, there's still a lot of, it's a multi-billion-dollar market, so there's a lot of opportunity out there. The market itself is what it is. I mean, I think I've seen where we actually have a value less than our cash at points, which is just, it's not just us. I'd feel bad if it was just us. I hit the mic, but it's not just us. So I don't know. If I knew I wouldn't be here. I'd be rich. I don't know what's super rich, but I think we're as strong as you can be. I mean, we're in a great position. We're a great, strong company, and the market's doing what it's doing. And I think if we put out some really good news on any of the things I just spoke about, you're going to see a correction in our stock price. Well, I think they're kicking me out now. They opened the door. He waved bye to me. Thank you.